Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we have an interesting show today with someone who's so dynamic and so much fun and such a fabulous person and very inspiring. And she's going to talk to us about getting through the grief of widowhood and also women who've had any kind of loss when bad things happen to them, how to work these things through. Do you want to introduce our guest, Heidi?
I would love to. And like you said, Carole is dynamic. I see her at many conferences. I just saw her recently a few months ago at TAPS. And, she talks the talk and she walks the walk. She has found hope again after loss, and I'm honored to introduce her. As I said, Mom, we are going to be talking today to Carole Brody Fleet. In 2000, Carole Brody Fleet lost her beloved husband, Mike, after a 2-year battle with ALS. At age 40, she was on her own raising an 11-year-old daughter. She realized that widows wear stilettos too, not just black. She thus set out to help others feeling the emotional shock and devastation of widowhood. She is the author of Widows Wear Stilettos, Happily Even After, and When Bad Things Happen to Good Women. She is currently happily remarried to Dave Sansbury. Welcome to the show, Carole.
Thank you so much, both of you. What a lovely introduction.
Oh, it's so great to have you on the show today, and you are such a lovely person, so well-deserving of that introduction. Well, Carole, one of the things that I admire so much about you is that you are able to have tragedies of having your husband have ALS and raising kids alone. And you've been such an inspiration to so many people because you've got such a great sense of humor and such a great perspective.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. It's my personal approach to grief recovery on steroids, really. I did not see crawling into a hole or into the fetal position as an option. Certainly not when you have children. And for me, myself. And to honor my late husband's legacy. So to approach life with determination, with proactivity, and with a little bit of humor involved. To me, that has always been a successful key to grief recovery, and hopefully I've been able to pass some semblance of that on.
Now tell me, what do you think the major challenges are that face widows, say, in that first year?
I think one of the biggest challenges is guilt. And it's remarkable. If you give me any method of losing somebody, I can give you a corresponding guilt. After 10 years and hundreds of thousands of stories, there's so much guilt in the widowed community. In my case, I felt initially that I didn't take good enough care of my husband. And I have found that as women, we are nurturers, we are fixers. It's what we do. I think it's in our DNA. When we aren't able to fix something, when we can't cure something, we have failed. Now, never mind that the medical community cannot cure this illness that Mike had. I didn't cure it, so I have failed him. It took me a while to figure out that I did the very best that I could under the circumstances, but it took a while to embrace that. There's so much guilt going on, and that's something that we really have to work on to fix.
Now, what about just the obligations that you haven't done before, the financial, the maybe taking the car to be fixed, that kind of thing? I mean, that's got to be horrendous.
That is, that's where the humor comes in, because you realize, without even knowing it consciously, you realize how much of a division of the chores there was. Now, I am a big proponent and activist, really, in letting women know the eras where women didn't know about finances or he handles all of that. Those eras are over, and we need to be responsible for our own financial house, and we need to know what's going on. We need to know where all the accounts are and how to reach people and, what to do, because we all know that in a time of grief, you've got enough to deal with. Now throw in financial and legal transitions, which even if you're prepared in that respect, it's not fun and it's not fast or easy. But if you don't know where the checkbook is, if you will, if you don't know what the online passwords are to different accounts, if you don't know what your rights are as a widow, it could be an even rockier road.
You don't realize all the things your husband does, I would think, until they're gone. You just kind of, I would imagine, take a lot of things for granted that they do.
The car breaks down or what have you, and all of a sudden, that ball's in your court. It's quite a learning curve that you go through. And there is a sense of pride when you figure out how to make the toilet quit running, or you do figure out how to replace that filter in the air conditioner. It's a sense of pride, and it's wonderful. You figure out that, this is a lousy situation. No one's going to deny that. But the situation does not have to consume me. I am going to get through this. And yeah, it can be as simple as something like a filter and an air conditioner, which was my big moment of independence. It's that simple. But when it comes to finances and legalities, we have an opportunity before tragedy visits us to be prepared, to be educated, to be in the know. We don't have to wait until that a terrible moment in time and go, oh my gosh, where is everything?
One of the things that I find difficult with older women who've lost spouses is that sometimes they let their children, and this is why my husband says don't have legal stuff sent to the house. My husband says, you know what, when you start having your kids manage your money, they're going to tell you how to spend it. And you better figure out how to do it yourself with your legal people, with your accountants, with your own people, and not have other people looking into your stuff.
And I agree with you, Mom. I don't want to manage your money, so I loved it that you
It's such a symbiotic relationship here. You've got to protect yourself. You know, one of the stories in the new book, we talk about betrayal post-loss. Now, when we think about betrayal, we automatically, our heads go to infidelity. But there is another kind of betrayal, and that betrayal is financial. And there is a story in there about a widow who, after her husband passed away, they were living a very comfortable life. They were very well off until she found out what was going on after her husband died. He'd taken out a second mortgage on the home that she didn't know about. There were all kinds of credit cards run up to the hilt that she didn't know about. He quit paying on his life insurance. And she said that our fabulous life was built on quicksand.
Wow.
And she had no idea until after he passed away. And she did find her way out of it because she did immediately get proactive and get, like you said, Gloria, the right accountants, the right legal assistants. But let's not get ourselves into that position to begin with. Let's figure out ways to protect ourselves from such an awful thing happening.
You know, Carole, you talked about guilt. When you said that, I thought, wow, I bet when you started dating or when any widow starts dating, you feel guilty because you feel like you're kind of, in a way, cheating on your husband. I know that sounds weird, maybe.
No, it doesn't, because it's a huge issue. That is an absolutely huge issue. In fact, we talk about it a lot when I do the dating workshops. We do talk about guilt and cheating because even though you're widowed, your head's still in the one half of the two of you mindset. You are still Mr. and Mrs. Barbie and Ken. And your head and your heart are still in that place, even though realistically and pragmatically, you're not in that place anymore. And it is okay to start dating. You know, so many people say, when is it appropriate to start dating? 10 minutes after the funeral, if you want to. I don't recommend that for a whole host of other reasons. But when you are widowed, you have upheld your end of the deal. Till death do us part. It's okay to resume dating. Now, I believe it's the second book, I have included 10 ways to determine if you're ready to begin dating. But there are ways to determine your dating readiness that have nothing to do with cheating or guilt or I haven't waited long enough. You have to get to know you post-loss. You're not the same person that you were when you stood up in the big white gown or in the penguin suit and exchanged vows. Widowhood transforms you, and you need to get to know that person before you invite someone else into your dynamic.
I want to say for older people, my mother was 80, and well, 78, I guess. And I don't know how long, a while after my dad died, she heard that her old boyfriend from college, wife died. She hasn't seen him for years, and she called him up and met him at a coffee shop. And they were great friends for 4 years after that. She had a delightful time into her 80s, by the way. And, you know, you don't have to wait some. We just had someone else die that we know, and her husband has found another person in probably 5 months. And they're older people. I mean, I think it's a whole different thing, and the families get upset about it, and I think it's just a crazy thing.
It is a crazy thing because, first of all, there's no statute of limitations on love or companionship. And I don't know when we got into this mindset that when we get into our upper reaches that all of a sudden we don't desire the company of another person even. Just to go out and have a meal or a movie and have a good time, travel. You know, nobody said you have to remarry in order to be happy, but there is no statute of limitations, there is no age limit, and there is no limit on love. The heart can expand infinitely if we allow it to embrace love. You know, it's
I love that.
Now, what about internet dating?
That's a huge hot button because internet dating is like dieting. If it didn't work, it wouldn't be successful. And if it did work, it wouldn't be successful. So it's really about being smart about internet dating. I'm an advocate of it, actually. I think it allows you to meet people that you might not have otherwise met because of perhaps your geographic location or just because of circumstance. But you have to be smart about it. A lot of people demonize the internet because there's nuts and there's jerks and we have the catfishing phenomenon now where people say that they are somebody that they're not and go to great lengths to try and be someone they're not. But what I'm quick to point out is the three of us remember the world before the internet. Now, were there jerks and nuts and idiots and liars before the internet?
Absolutely.
Yes. So, we can't demonize the internet for something that already existed. Dishonesty didn't show up just because the internet came into our conscious 20 years ago, 25 years ago. We have to be smart. Just like we were smart when we went to a club on a Friday night in the 70s or the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
We were smart, hopefully, about giving out personal information, getting into a car with someone we didn't know. The internet gives a lot of people, unfortunately, a false sense of security because there is anonymity with it. You have to be smart. You have to pretend that you are in that club on a Friday night in 1983. And would I behave this way if I was, in person? And this person said, "Can you meet me someplace and get into my car or give me your phone number?" Would you be that loose with your personal information? Hopefully the answer is no. It's the same thing on the internet. If you're smart and if you're careful, the internet can be a phenomenal tool. And for every horror story that the internet gives us, there are hundreds of wonderful, beautiful success stories. Unfortunately, we don't hear enough about those.
You can hook up again with people from high school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can find people from your past so much easier with the
Which
internet.
I love. I love. It used to be that my high school friends, who I adore, I only saw once every 5 years at a reunion. And now, you get to be a part of their life, even if it's just on a computer because they're on the other side of the country. And you're a part of their lives and you see their children and their grandchildren. It's a phenomenal tool.
Well, Carole, it's time for us to get ready to close the show, and it's so great to talk to you. I want you to tell people where they can get your books and tell them about your website.
Well, the books are available at all major bookstores, in person and online. And the best place to start is at widowswearstilettos.com, whether you're widowed or not. Please stop at widowswearstilettos.com. It has all the information about books and what's going on and where we're going to be next. And we're also on Facebook at Widows Wear Stilettos as well.
Well, Carole, thank you again for being on the show. And we want to say to you and remind you that if you've lost hope, lean on ours till you find your own. And this show is brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation in partnership with the Compassionate Friends and the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation. And God bless.